On this Sunday night, the national inside Venezuela. After thousands take to the streets, the embattled president tries to hold on to power of a country in crisis.
I hope we start living our lives past this nightmare.
Dozens have died, millions have fled, and those left uncertain of what comes next. Our Adrian Arsenault is in Venezuela.
One big bang for seconds. For seconds, the house shook. Shook. I mean shook. I never experienced anything like this.
A terrifying blast shakes residents of an Ontario town. What caused a house to suddenly explode?
I think that's just wrong. This is what you're not supposed to do when you treat customers.
His flight was overcrowded, so he offered to take a later one. Air Canada promised big compensation, so why didn't they pay up? What you need to know before you give up your seat. This is The National. In Venezuela, it's a dangerous moment-to-moment contest to marshal influence, to move people, move armies, to control the streets and control events, as the country's two rival presidents maneuver for political survival. Tonight, Adrian Arsenault is inside the country, where a stunning display of people power and rising military defections raise the stakes for de facto leader Nicolas Maduro. You'll hear about the phone call today between opposition leader Juan Guaido and Justin Trudeau, and how Canada becomes ground zero for discussions on the international response when the 12-nation Lima Group meets here in Ottawa tomorrow. But first, the latest from Venezuela itself. Adrian got into Venezuela at a time when Nicolas Maduro is keen to display his sway over the military and, along with it, Venezuela's future.
He is surely trying. Nicolas Maduro at military exercises today, partly encouraging, partly lecturing troops about loyalty, commanding it, getting his own medal, it seems.
Leales siempre, traidores nunca. Traidores nunca.
Maduro needs Venezuelans and those in the international community to see these moments and believe his strength endures, that his presidency endures. Certainly his language was all about control.
Ellos dicen que en Venezuela va a haber una guerra civil. Ni intervención ni guerra civil. Venezuela va a haber paz. Y esa paz la vamos a garantizar con la unión cívico-militar. Paz. Nuestra victoria va a ser la paz.
But will it? This weekend saw the highest profile defection so far. This Air Force general who urged his fellow officers to switch sides.
El 90% de la Fuerza Armada Nacional Bolivariana no está con el dictador, está con el pueblo de Venezuela.
There's a bit of a show in this as well. This general was in a planning role, didn't command any forces of his own, but a few lower-ranking officers still followed his lead.
Mi general, mis respetos.
And that will make Venezuelan leaders with long memories wince, because the Air Force has history here.
A rebel helicopter fired on the presidential palace before it was shot out of the sky by an army gunship.
It attempted a coup here decades ago, leading to a dogfight in the skies before a rebel fighter was shot down. So now Maduro must fear the skies and the streets. The sea of opposition strength yesterday was breathtaking. Rallies stretched beyond Caracas to towns and cities far from traditional anti-government hotspots, places where rallies have not been common. And for all the anxiety of bloody crackdowns in those streets, instead, security forces backed off, even hugged protesters, either didn't have the heart to go after their own neighbors and friends, or realize the tide is turning. That's the version of the future Juan Guaido wants to believe in. He insists he is now president, and every day more nations agree. Canada was one of the first to stand by him.
Que ya tenemos 3 puntos de acopio para la ayuda humanitaria.
His power building, his voice disappearing, he maintained he would arrange for relief shipments into Venezuela. Interesting play. It would force the military to choose, accept the aid and stand by Guaido, or block it and align with Maduro. The U.S. National Security Advisor said the aid is being transported right now. Donald Trump suggesting intervention doesn't have to stop there.
What would make you use the U.S. military in Venezuela? What's the national security
Well, I don't want to say
interest?
that, but certainly it's something that's on the, it's an option.
So what will Washington do? What will Maduro's allies, Russia and China, do? What can Venezuelans do? These are obsessive questions here, and almost all the answers are dangerous. You can't forget Venezuelans have allowed themselves to believe in change before, and they've been disappointed before. But they will tell you this feels different, and this week feels important. In Venezuela, I'm Adrienne Arsenault.
Prime Minister Justin Trudeau emphasized that importance in a fairly lengthy conversation with Juan Guaido. The two talked for about 30 minutes today about the need to send a clear message about what they call the illegitimacy of the Maduro regime. This as Canada gears up to host an emergency summit on Venezuela tomorrow in Ottawa.
We are moving forward on recognizing Juan Guaido, who is the president of the National Assembly, as the interim president, so we can move towards free and fair elections.
There's a lot at stake, not just for Venezuela, but for the other countries in this hemisphere. And that's why Ottawa is bringing together the Lima Group nations, more than a dozen countries in Latin America, the Caribbean, and Canada. It was created a year and a half ago in an attempt to address Venezuela's political and humanitarian crisis. CBC's Ottawa Bureau Chief Rob Russo joins me now. Okay, Rob, the Prime Minister will be there tomorrow. Do we have a sense of what he wants to say and what they want to come out of this meeting?
Well, the first thing he wants to say is he's there. He's a leader. He's going to be the only leader there. And that's a signal to the other leaders that the Prime Minister wants to send that Canada continues to take this very seriously and they should take it seriously as well. The message is essentially two-pronged. The first message is pressure. Keep up the pressure on Maduro. Let him know that as of midnight tonight, for instance, those who are not in the Lima Group who are coming in as observers, about 20 other countries, as of midnight tonight, a lot of them are going to declare Guaido the acting and interim president. So the pressure will be relentless. The other thing he's going to tell them is prepare. Prepare for two possibilities. That Maduro actually allows new elections to happen, and then what would Canada do in order to make sure, Canada and the other countries, to make sure that those elections are fair. The other preparation is if Maduro says no, and he has withstood some of these in the past. In 2013, 2017, he withstood these things. There was a humanitarian crisis, so prepare for that. What can we do in this group to help Colombia, to help Brazil, to help Guyana?
Okay, so what is in it for us to host this meeting? We're a long ways from Venezuela, so what is Canada getting out of this?
Well, it's no secret that the world is a jungle now, and for the last year, Canada's been mauled in that jungle in places like China and in Saudi Arabia. They want to send the message to you that this is where Canada plays in the big leagues. They play a leadership role, and a rare area in foreign policy when the Prime Minister can strut and preen a little bit and legitimately claim leadership.
Okay, Ottawa Bureau Chief Rob Russo, thank you for this.
My pleasure.
As Rob mentioned, that tomorrow's meeting will also look at ways that Lima Group countries can further support Venezuelans through humanitarian assistance. In fact, since 2017, Canada has contributed more than $2 million, money gone to help the most vulnerable populations affected by the crisis, both in Venezuela and in neighboring Colombia. And Andrew, you heard earlier the president's comments on Venezuela there, just part of a wide-ranging interview that was airing today.
Yeah, and it was noteworthy for what he said, but also that he said it at all. No secret that Donald Trump's relationship with the mainstream media is strained. It can be a straight-up dogfight. So sitting down with a major television news outlet that isn't Fox News, people take notice. And from Russia to North Korea to, yes, the border wall. As Paul Hunter shows us, it was all fair game.
For all of Donald Trump's put-downs of the press, he's lately seemed remarkably willing to engage in scrum after scrum, taking question after question, even agreeing this weekend to what he refused to do last year, a TV interview timed for Super Bowl Sunday.
Well, look, the Russia thing is a hoax.
As he does, Trump repeated many of his long-stated positions, but on, as he put it, the Russia thing, and whether he wants the eventual report from the special counsel looking into possible links between the 2016 Trump campaign and Russia made public, he hedged.
Now, it's up to the Attorney General. I don't know. It depends. I have no idea what it's going to say.
And remember the summit last year with North Korea's Kim Jong-un? Trump says he'll likely announce by Tuesday the date of a second summit with Kim.
I like him. I get along with him great. We have a fantastic chemistry.
Just last week, he downplayed testimony from his top intelligence chiefs who said since last year's summit, Kim has shown no sign of abandoning his nuclear program. And on Iran's nuclear aspirations, something else the intelligence chiefs have downplayed, said Trump he wants to keep U.S. troops in Iraq to keep an eye on Iran.
I want to be able to watch Iran. All I want to do is be able to watch.
And then there's the wall and Trump's threat to declare the border with Mexico a national emergency to free up money to extend that barrier, something top Democrat Nancy Pelosi has long fought against.
She can keep playing her games, but we will win.
In a signal, perhaps, on Trump's thinking, word today the U.S. is sending more soldiers to the border, nearly 4,000 more for 3 months. The stated reason, needed for protection and security. Paul Hunter, CBC News, Washington.
Now, Paul mentioned how Trump said he might have some news on Tuesday. That's when he delivers his State of the Union address to Congress. It was delayed because of the government shutdown, but now it's slated to start at 9 p.m. Eastern. Okay, to Toronto now. A massive explosion northwest of the city obliterated a house today and killed a man. Dozens of his neighbors have been forced from their homes. And they all have the same question. What happened? The CBC's Talia Ricci spoke with them today.
What was a home is now unrecognizable. Early this morning, this community was jolted awake by the explosion.
One big bang for seconds. For seconds, the house shook. Shook. I mean shook.
It was loud enough, it made me jump actually. I'm like, where am I?
Vibration. The door was vibrating, so I woke up.
Worried neighbors quickly gathered outside, trying to figure out what happened.
I thought it was a transformer. I go, no. I go, not possible. It had to be more than one transformer. I go.
But of course, it was much worse.
To find out after that it's a house that's demolished, and I just feel my heart just goes out to them.
The man who died was 54-year-old Joseph Westcott. There were no other injuries, but several nearby homes were badly damaged.
We have about 30 to 35 people at moment that have been evacuated.
Due to some of the structural integrity that those houses may have faced, there's also concerns that those gas mains may have also been ruptured, as well as any other hazards of debris. There's some debris that's up into the trees on several roofs in the areas. It's spread out over a couple of streets.
Fire officials are still investigating what caused the explosion. Meanwhile, people are pulling together to help.
No one's going to go hungry. No one's going to be out on the street. We make sure that they get all the things they need to survive until they can get back to their home.
For those who live close to where this explosion happened, Red Cross tells us it could be months before they're able to return home because of the structural damage done to some of these houses. In the meantime, they're helping residents book hotels. With the amount of debris this explosion caused, the cleanup will be extensive. Talia Ricci, CBC News, Caledon.
And as far as checking for structural damage, a building inspector and fire crews will be going door to door to examine those neighboring homes.
It's an all too familiar tale. You show up at the airport only to find there are more passengers than seats on your flight. Yeah, I bet that's happened to you before. Tonight we have the story of a man who volunteered to give up his seat, but says the airline didn't live up to its end of the bargain. Erica Johnson has this Go Public investigation.
Every customer experience matters.
Daniel Chai is teaching his business students about customer service, a lesson he created after a recent experience with Air Canada.
It's all about trusting and respecting your customers.
He was traveling from Vancouver to Toronto, but his flight was overcrowded.
It was just pandemonium. There were people sitting on the floor. There were babies crying. The whole place was just full of people.
Chai says he volunteered to give up his seat and take a later flight in exchange for a $600 voucher, which he says was increased to $800 later that day.
And I thought, wow, this is a great gesture by Air Canada. They stepped up. They're really rewarding people for voluntarily giving up their seats, as they should.
But when Air Canada emailed him the next day, it offered only a 15% discount off a future flight, not $800.
I think that's just wrong. As a business professor, I consider that to be a marketing fail. This is what you're not supposed to do when you treat customers.
After he pushed back in an email, Air Canada replied offering on an exceptional basis a $300 coupon as a goodwill gesture. But an expert in contract law says a verbal promise, in this case for $800, is a binding contract.
The airline offered up compensation. The passenger accepted it. It's not open to the airline to say, well, we don't really like that deal anymore, and so we'd like to change it.
This air passenger rights advocate says giving up your seat on an overcrowded flight can be risky.
I generally recommend passengers not to volunteer to give up their seats because we hear too many cases like this one where passengers have difficulty then getting the compensation they were promised.
Air Canada declined an interview request, but after Go Public contacted the airline, it did send Daniel Chai another voucher, this one for $500, adding up to the $800 he says he was owed. Erica Johnson, CBC News, Vancouver.
You may know the federal government has proposed a passenger bill of rights. If passed, it could take effect by this summer, but there won't be guaranteed compensation if you voluntarily give up your seat. That would remain negotiable. There would be some compensation if your flight is significantly delayed or canceled, or for instance, if you get bumped. If you've got a story idea or a tip for the Go Public team to investigate, you can send them an email at gopublic@cbc.ca.
And now look at some of the other stories we're watching tonight here on The National. Starting in BC, where police captured the man suspected of shooting a transit officer.
I'm pleased to announce and inform the public that Dayon Glasgow, the suspect in the Scott Road SkyTrain shooting, is now in custody.
After a 4-day manhunt, Glasgow was apprehended this morning at a house in Burnaby. No one was hurt in the takedown. The transit officer was shot Wednesday after approaching a man on a station platform. That officer is now recovering at home. Look at that. 13 players and both head coaches were ejected after this hockey brawl broke out last night during a game between the Acadia Axemen and the St. Francis Xavier University X-Men. Many in the crowd say they've never seen anything like that before. An investigation by the regional governing body is underway. This is a suburban California neighborhood in shock. A home engulfed in flames after it was hit by debris from a small plane that fell apart in the sky, then fell out of the sky, crashing into a backyard. On board that plane, just the pilot, but in the crash, a total of 2 people died and 2 others were injured.
I've been here 18 years, I've never seen it up this far.
And in Northern Australia, thousands have been forced out of their homes after what's being called once-in-a-century flooding. More than a meter of rain has fallen in the past week. That's about 6 months' worth. And more rain, even tornadoes, are forecast over the next 3 days.
Ahead tonight on The National, as Canada's dispute with China worsens, we look at how businesses here are watching anxiously with billions of dollars hanging in the balance.
And we'll have more of Adrian's interview with one of Time Magazine's Persons of the Year, Maria Ressa. She's an investigative journalist from the Philippines, and she spoke with Adrian about exposing the truth and being a target in her own country.
Yeah, and that Adrian's busy. And a little later, why fewer parents in the U.S. are letting their kids play football.
Unfortunately, I think they've painted a false narrative that youth football is going to kill your kid.
I miss my son. I lost my son. I'll never see him again.
We recognize China is an extremely important and growing economy, a significant player on the world stage. We look forward to continuing to trade with China, but we need the Chinese authorities to understand that when it comes to the rule of law, Canada and an awful lot of other countries will stand firm.
As a rift between Ottawa and Beijing widens, sparked by Canada's arrest of Huawei CFO Meng Wanzhou and the subsequent detainment of 2 Canadians, there are new worries about how the diplomatic tensions are affecting business ties between the 2 countries. China is Canada's 3rd largest trading partner, and with billions of investment dollars at stake, the business community is getting worried. Katie Simpson on how they're managing the uncertainty.
When it comes to products this country is known for, this is about as Canadian as it gets. Producers send maple syrup all around the world, and it's becoming more popular in China.
Any exporting company has to really consider being in Asia in general, because this is where the growing, the buying power is.
Citadel is one of Canada's largest syrup exporters. It won't reveal how much it ships to China for competitive reasons, but it hopes to increase sales to Chinese customers by 500% over the next 5 years. The company is closely following the diplomatic dispute between Ottawa and Beijing, and while it hasn't hurt business yet, there is anxiety the hit could come.
If it continues and if it goes bad, obviously we anticipate that there could be some commercial setbacks.
A senior business source tells CBC News Canadian corporate leaders are in panic mode, worried prospective deals with Beijing are at risk. The government is keeping them updated, but it can't offer any assurances that China is through retaliating.
The bottom line is that businesses hate uncertainty.
The president of the Canadian Chamber of Commerce is careful to choose his words.
I'm not aware of any business that has said we have decided to pull out of China as a consequence. But there's no question that people are looking more carefully than they would normally and examining whether this is the appropriate time to be taking further steps.
That's the question for Citadel. Managers have plans to travel to Shanghai for a food show in May.
If the situation continues to decay, and we'll see if it's appropriate to go.
There's very little chance this dispute will be resolved by spring, which means Citadel and other Canadian companies have some tough choices ahead. Katie Simpson, CBC News, Ottawa.
In the last week, Canadian diplomats were given access to both Michael Kovrig and Michael Spavor. It's their third consular visit since they were arrested by China in mid-December on so-called national security grounds.
Well, ahead tonight on The National, it looks like a Heritage Minute, but don't be fooled. Did this political attack ad cross a line?
But first, the Sunday interview with Maria Ressa. We'll have more of Adrian's conversation with the Filipina investigative journalist and one of Time Magazine's Persons of the Year.
Of the 4 people, the Persons of the Year, you said you're the only one who's alive and who's free. So did that cover, did it really feel like a bit like a threat?
There are now people in power who see journalism as a threat.
For its Persons of the Year edition, Time Magazine shows a tribute to truth and the risks of telling it. The murdered Jamal Khashoggi on the cover, the staff of the Capital Gazette honoring the reporters gunned down, Reuters journalist jailed in Myanmar, and then Maria Ressa of the Philippines, still alive, still free, but very clearly under threat. A woman who once tracked terror networks now hunts disinformation networks, the ones that spread lies and hate. She's been on the receiving end of those. The news organization she runs, Rappler, has been calling out the government of Rodrigo Duterte for its role in the drug war and the murders of thousands. Duterte has tried to silence Rappler, and now it seems there's an effort to silence Ressa, too. She's facing charges of tax evasion, could spend 15 years in jail. She says it's political and that she won't stop doing her job. We met up a few days ago to talk about fear and fighting for the truth.
First thing I want to ask you about is I'm trying to imagine what it's like to get either an email or a phone call from Time Magazine saying, Maria, we think you're going to be one of the, a Person of the Year.
I never got either. I mean, I got neither. I didn't get an email or a phone call. They never told me. I found out when they announced it on Twitter. I was with one of our guys in Rappler, and I gave her the phone, and I said, I think this is fake news. Can you check? And then after that, they came out with the 4 covers, and when I saw Jamal Khashoggi there and Capital Gazette, I was like, oh my God, I think it's real. And then, that sinking feeling in the pit of your stomach, then I got it. I was like, what does that mean? And I had to quickly go through, is it going to be positive or negative? Will it bring more attacks? Will it help us?
Of the 4 people, the Persons of the Year, you said you're the only one who's alive and who's free. So did that cover, did it really feel like a bit like a threat?
It showed you how under threat journalists and journalism, how we are under threat just by doing our jobs, right? We're still reeling from the brutality of the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. I mean, we were talking in the Philippines. If that had happened in the Philippines, would people even have known he died? right? Depends on which country you were at and what politics was involved. We shouldn't be thinking like this. We shouldn't be under threat.
So what is the threat you're under? What are you actually accused of doing?
The mother case, which is the one that we really, almost every other charge that they put on is somehow based on this, is that we are owned and controlled by foreigners.
Are you?
No, absolutely not. That mother case is both a civil case and a criminal case. The criminal part could send me to jail for up to 15 years, and it's called the anti-dummy law, that I am acting as a dummy for a foreigner. Again, you just kind of look at my career, where I've been, why we set up Rappler in the first place, and the whole thing is ludicrous.
Ludicrous, but you have Senator Leila de Lima, who is in jail and has been there now for years, all the while thinking that she would get out any moment because she hasn't done anything wrong. She hasn't even had a trial.
That's correct. That's correct. And I take a deep breath when I remember that. But I again hope that there are enough men and women inside the Philippine government and the judiciary system that will stand on principles, because allowing this, weaponizing the rule of law, weaponizing law against perceived enemies, against journalists, this is a massive crack in a pillar of democracy.
Since you are a fake news outlet, then I am not surprised that your articles are also fake.
For people who may not be familiar, what are the things that have been happening to you and your reporters as you expose what's happening with the drug war, or as you talk about Duterte in a sometimes less than flattering light?
When the president attacked us, it's easier. When the president attacks you, you can respond. When anonymous trolls attack you repeatedly, who do you respond to? It's like an illusion. It's a ghost. And when you're telling other people it's happening, they don't really believe you because they don't see it and they don't feel it. This kind of new psychological warfare, you saw it. It has an impact on your personal, your psychology, the way you feel. It plays with your head. We do this for our community, and when the community, you think your community is coming back and lashing at you, you can't help but respond to it. But how do you find out that it's manufactured, right? So that was the work we did. So for 2 weeks, I think, I grappled with it personally inside.
Well, people were wishing death upon you, rape upon you, calling you every single name of every animal
yes.
That exists, right?
Yes.
So did you think
very creative.
This is really how people feel about me initially?
At the beginning, only for a period of time, and then you just go over it. You get beyond it because you can't move if you're absorbing it.
As we talk here, you're not completely separate from the people who wish you ill.
Yeah.
So to what extent are you worried about the Duterte followers and the anti-Maria people being nearby, even here in Canada?
You know, I've gone to Davao City. I do workshops in Mindanao, right, which has been under martial law for 2 years. Again, unheard of. And in the real world, they're actually very civil. That's why I think there's something manufactured in this.
So they attack you online, but they don't tend to approach you in person.
And if anything, what's strange to me and why I feel we're doing the right thing, we're reporters, right? We know what it's like to be a reporter, and when you're a respected reporter, you have people who can see your work. But this is a different time. Like, whole families have come to me in airports to hug me, and they just say, you know, you are saying things we want to say, but we can't. So there are many more Filipinos who live in fear, who are trying to get out of the way. And that's what we hope that we're doing. We're hoping that we're giving a voice to that, certainly giving them a narrative that deserves to be in a democracy. But no, not really afraid. Maybe foolish, but...
Okay. I feel like an urgency coming from you, that you are trying to get so much done. What's behind that urgency?
We're at an existential moment. You know, it's an existential moment for journalism, for journalists, certainly for Rappler. You can see it. But for journalism, because we're under threat on two sides by the social media giants, the attacks and money. Google, Facebook are taking the lion's share of all new digital ad spend, and that's a threat to us for survival. But beyond what journalists, so journalists are your first line of defense in any democracy. When journalists are under attack, democracy is under attack. It's an existential moment for democracy because a democracy is anchored in an information ecosystem. And when the integrity of the information ecosystem is compromised, which is where we are today, democracies crumble.
You have other citizenship. You're an American. Yeah, I would imagine the people who love you are saying, Maria, you've done a fantastic job. It's time to protect yourself. Leave. Just leave.
But I'm also a Filipino. And this is why we became journalists in the first place, right? And when you're a journalist in good times, it's easy to live by those principles, by the mission. This is the time when it matters. So I have no choice, you know, and not just for me, Rappler is young, you've met our team. They're so focused on this. Every single other friction of a news group, gone. The mission is clear, and we're going to carry it out.
Until either you win or you can't anymore, I'm guessing.
I'm hoping, all you can do is hope, but I think there are many more Filipinos. I think, yes, people are afraid, and that's what President Duterte is counting on. He's a master manipulator in the sense that he understands the psychology of Filipinos. He's been a mayor of Davao City on and off since 1988, right? So he's controlled the city. And he knows that law and order, the use of violence, it has a certain impact on others, the use of power in this brute force kind of way. It's both respected and feared. And that allows him, gives him a lot of leeway. But I think there are many Filipinos whose values are aligned with human rights. But those voices have to come back, and they need to find strength.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
As always, thank you.
Thanks, Adrian.
Pretty compelling interview. Okay, up next on The National, we're going to look at a question many parents in the U.S. are certainly asking. Is football too dangerous for kids?
That's how you learned football in the old days. You put your helmet on and you went and you tried to, run into things with your head. That's not the case these days.
First, though, a look at coverage you'll see here starting tomorrow night. We're taking an in-depth look at pipelines, politics, and a province that's hurting.
Many of these people have planned for the boom in bus cycles. It's just going on too long this time.
As much as I hate to say it, I don't think we've seen the worst of it.
The future of Alberta, what's at stake for the province and the country? This week, The National heads west, where opinions run deep as the oil.
Canada's got to get together rather than work apart.
An energy-fueled debate where pristine wilderness looks under threat and a former boomtown feels overwhelmed.
This community has been hit hard by the downturn in oil and gas. So we came here to see that impact and listen to the message people have for the rest of Canada.
We need to move this oil. We got to get our message to somebody that can listen to us.
And in a national conversation, we'll put your questions to people who may have answers, including Premier Rachel Notley.
I would like to know,
what do you plan to do?
How are you going to?
is the government aware of
What is your government doing to make the next generation successful?
And with Albertans heading to the polls soon, we'll sit down with the province's opposition leader to ask what would he do differently. All that this week on The National from Alberta.
I think people hate the Patriots because of jealousy.
It is Super Bowl Sunday, the biggest showdown in North American sports. There was plenty of controversy heading into the game. There was that blown call, which helped the LA Rams into tonight's matchup with the New England Patriots. And then Maroon 5's decision to play the halftime show when many other performers backed out in support of players' right to protest. But Regardless of your politics, one issue that continues to dog football is concerns over head injuries. Ahead of tonight's game, U.S. President Donald Trump weighed in.
I just don't like the reports that I see coming out having to do with football. I mean, it's a dangerous sport. And I think it's really tough. I thought the equipment would get better, and it has. The helmets have gotten far better, but it hasn't solved the problem.
The president said he would have a hard time letting his son Barron play, given the risks. Now, there are certainly parents that share that same fear, and as concern over football and brain injuries grows, the consequences are extending beyond the NFL and into the ranks of youth sport. Kim Brunhuber has a closer look at some of the challenges hitting the game.
You guys better follow the ball.
Down!
The Eagles of El Segundo. These kids, ages 5 to 14, may look like little bobbleheads, but the hits, you can hear them from the stands. The team plays in a league run by Pop Warner, the largest youth football program in the U.S.
And get ready to play football. Do you understand?
Football, says their coach Michael Wagner, is one of the last gladiator sports. But these days, he says, it's getting harder and harder to recruit new gladiators.
You know, we're pariahs now as young, football coaches.
Ready, right.
Over the last 10 years in the U.S., participation in youth football has dropped more than 20%. Parents, Wagner says, have been scared off. According to some studies, these children will take an average of 250 hits to the head each season. And some parents are starting to worry that could damage their children's brains.
Unfortunately, I think they've painted a false narrative that youth football is going to kill your kid.
I miss my son. I lost my son. I'll never see him again.
Joe Cornell's son Tyler played tackle football from the age of 8 to 14. As an offensive lineman, he helped carry this team to the Pop Warner Super Bowl. He never reported a concussion, didn't show any symptoms until the end of high school when he began to suffer from depression.
I would later find that his brain was slowly dying.
Then in 2014, he killed himself.
He'll never give me a hug. I'll never make him a meal. I'll never have him come through my door. And I have to live with that. And it's a terrible price.
A brain autopsy revealed he suffered from chronic traumatic encephalopathy, or CTE, a degenerative brain condition that has been linked with sports that involve repeated blows to the head, like football.
It wasn't like the movies. No one came to my door. It was just a phone call to tell you that they're dead.
Kimberly Archie's son, Paul, who also played youth football without sustaining any concussions, died 5 months after Tyler. His behavior had been erratic months before his death, so Archie asked a pathologist to examine her son's brain.
His CTE was in the exact place that they would expect it in someone who played football.
Now Archie and Cornell are suing Pop Warner, claiming the football program didn't do enough to warn parents or protect children from the risks. Their suit is sending shockwaves through every level of organized football.
The reason that we filed the lawsuit against Pop Warner was for justice, for a search for the truth, to make a difference, to stop even one family from burying their child.
But actually proving the link between youth football and long-term brain injury could be difficult.
Right, so this is a bio-like brain.
Dr. Chris Gizza is a neurologist who specializes in sport concussions and traumatic brain injury.
Or when the head rapidly accelerates or decelerates, you can see that the brain in there is actually moving around and bending and stretching, and that's what can lead to the biological changes that occur.
He says there's evidence to suggest headshots are more damaging to young players because their brains aren't fully developed.
The insulation on the wires in the brain is called myelin, and the young brain has less of that insulation. And we know even from just electrical wires, wires that don't have insulation are easier to break and have problems, so that's a vulnerability of being young.
A recent study suggests playing youth tackle football may lead to double the risk of behavioral problems and triple the risk of depression later in life.
Right after the injury, and you can see.
But Dr. Gizza says there is conflicting data, which suggests scientists still don't fully understand the most complex injury to our most complex organ.
The truth is really, quite often, is somewhere in the middle, right? Not everybody who plays football is going to get brain damage, okay? And not everybody who plays football is going to come out unscathed.
So don't ever jog. Got it?
Wagner says he now focuses on teaching kids to tackle properly and not use their helmet as a weapon.
That's how you learned football in the old days. You put your helmet on and you went and you tried to, run into things with your head. That's not the case these days. We are so far beyond that, and everybody's so aware of the potential risk that this might play in a person's life that we don't want to risk kids' safety. Full speed.
In a society gone soft, Wagner says, football will help transform these boys into men. But the mothers who say they've lost their sons to football fear parents may not realize what they've signed their boys up for until it's too late. Kim Brunhuber, CBC News, El Segundo, California.
And one more football note. While a big draw for the Super Bowl is obviously the game itself, let's face it, the ads also get people talking. But there's one ad in particular that caught the attention of General Motors Canada, and they're not happy with it. They wanted it pulled.
When GM needed help, we gave them $300 from every single Canadian. And after that nearly $11 billion bailout, GM continues to expand in Mexico, leaving workers out in the cold.
The ad was paid for by Unifor, and it's highly critical of GM's expansion in Mexico at the expense of its Oshawa, Ontario plant. About 2,000 employees will lose their jobs. But GM accuses the union of, quote, purposely misleading Canadians and trying to tarnish its reputation, saying it repaid its 2009 loan in full and fulfilled all of the terms of its agreements with the Canadian government many years ago.
The Moment is up next, but first, there's another ad that's sparking a bit of controversy tonight. In case you missed it, there are few things so quintessentially Canadian as the Heritage Minutes.
Burnt toast. Dr. Penfield, I can smell burnt toast.
Produced by Historica Canada to remind Canadians of forgotten heroes or well-deserving icons.
In June of 1813, Laura Secord overheard the secret plans of the American soldiers in occupation.
So well loved, in fact, the Conservative Party of Canada decided, hey, great idea.
In over 150 years, Canada has had many prime ministers.
Let's just borrow this concept to slam the Liberal government for a variety of conflict of interest breaches, and particularly the Prime Minister for breaking ethics laws for that trip to the Aga Khan's private island.
Justin Trudeau had made history.
But as it turns out, Historica Canada is pretty protective of these things. And while it's okay to do a parody, the organization said this one was just straight up partisan politics. Within hours, the Conservative Party had pulled its moment down, saying it was, in fact, a parody, but perhaps could have been viewed as the real thing. We wouldn't want it mistaken for real production by Historica Canada, which typically showcase prouder moments in Canadian history, said a spokesperson. Historica now would like an apology from the Conservatives, or else, because some Canadian traditions should be free from politics.
There's a good chance you've seen this touching photo by now. Corporal Jeremy Hilson returning from Iraq to surprise his family at center ice during last night's hockey game between the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Pittsburgh Penguins. It was the Leafs' annual Canadian Armed Forces Appreciation Night, and the story of how this surprise came together is our moment of the day.
It was probably the most intense, crazy thing I've done in a very, very long time. Just with the amount of people that were there and the amount of friends and family that I knew were watching on TV, it kind of made for the greatest night I could have ever imagined for coming home. I found out about a week and a half before last night's game, and then in that week and a half, I had to take care of actually getting out of theater and making my way home and continuing to lie to my wife for the better part of a week and a half that I was still in Iraq, and it's probably the only lie I could ever tell to my wife that is perfectly okay.
Okay, wait 1 second. Ladies and gentlemen, here with tonight's ceremonial puck and home from Iraq is Corporal Jeremy Hilson.
You want to come sit with me?
Yeah.
Okay, you can come sit with me. Yeah. The reaction that I got was exactly what I was expecting. Tears, a little bit of confusion, but overall, yeah, she was shocked. To realize that I was kind of the face of this mission was really humbling, because the guys that I worked with over the last 6 months, any single one of those guys could have deserved to be in my shoes last night. So it made it really, really special for me.
Off the top there, he said that last night was the most intense and craziest thing he had done in a while. And just to remind people, he had been deployed to Iraq for 6 months. So that guy is pretty awesome if that was the craziest thing he did.
Yeah, no kidding. I got to say, you know, when I watched it's a very sweet video, of course, obviously. But I didn't think she was actually surprised at first. Like I couldn't gauge from her facial reaction.
I felt that too.
Yeah, but I guess obviously, I mean, as he said, it is a pretty surreal experience to be at center ice. Never mind to have that happen to you.
No, a lovely moment for sure for them and the whole family and for his service. He got all that clapping for his wonderful service as well.
Very, very touching moment. And that's why it's our moment of the day. That's the National for this February 3rd. Have a good night.